Hello and welcome to episode 245 of the FReality Podcast. We're a bloody long way from Christmas, but we've got plenty of presents for you regardless. Chorus, dear chorus, ready thy vocal cords. As Budweiser lads once excitedly said, what's up? So here's what's up. PSVR 2 turned 1, and Sony brought us a moist slice of birthday cake. Sean Murray drops the lens prescription on No Man's Sky. Furries nearly steal Zim's wallet with a cute internet scam. UEVR wants, that sounds so wrong. UEVR wants you to take a long drive off of a short pier. Adam's been milling a boot in her high-tech specs. And if you ever wanted to sail the high seas as a pirate, you just might in Wanderer 2. For our fortnightly nightcap, Jose serves up a triple shot of the latest VR games. And well, you might be thinking to yourself, who makes up FReality crew? Well, we've got Adam, the Hawaiian princess, Rowdy, the down on his luck Canuck, and Jose, who had to do time after sending a few pals to an early grave. And myself, Zim, who is 5 weeks into being an active zookeeper and temporary single dad. I'm telling you, I've definitely earned my Mrs. Doubtfire Scouts badge. All right, let's do highlights. Who wants to go first? I'm leaving it up to Feeding Frenzy here.
Oh, no.
Go first.
All right, Adam's up.
Most of the Hawaii stuff I'll talk about later when it comes to the glasses and how I used it most of the time. But yeah, I spent a little over a week in Kauai, which was super nice. I came back on Thursday, which was sad. So then I went into Real VR fishing, and I have some of those DLCs that have the Hawaii maps in them. So I was just fishing, Real VR fishing, just being sad, having Hawaiian music on YouTube in the background. So I'm like, oh man, I miss it so much. But I did have something that I wanted to show that's like happy sad. So hold on, let me get that.
Uh-oh. A little bittersweet and sweet and sour. What is? Oh no!
Oh,
no! Oh no!
Let's go.
Sadly, it's not mine though. It's the founder of my company, because he lives in Europe. He had to have it shipped here so I can bring it to him in GDC. But I was like, man, like he also got the carrying case, and I'm like, I don't want to. This is a hefty thing to put in a checked luggage. So I'm wondering if I can get away with doing an unboxing just so I can give it to him in the smaller carrying case. But I don't want to also rob him of an unboxing experience because I know that's kind of fun. So we'll see. But it's it's going to be quite hefty to fly with it. So we'll see if I can.
I was gonna joke that maybe you just lifted up a baby elephant,
Yeah.
but no, it's an Apple Vision Pro
Going
case
from
that
Hawaii.
she's showing off on stream for the audio listeners wondering what the heck is we all talking about. That's pretty
Yeah, like-
exciting, Adam. I totally forgot that you were doing the interceptor role. Oh, and
But
the big
there's the
fluffy
baby
pillow.
elephant.
Yeah, but this is like much. I mean, I don't think I can hold both at the same time. That's just not going to be possible. But the little carrying case it comes in, this is going to be much easier to transport it if he's okay with not having the box. Like I know some people really, really want the box though, so I'll ask him first. But
Yeah. The
Hefty.
product box thing is definitely a thing. I learned that when I moved away from Scotland, and I'm not even joking. I had product boxes for about 20 years saved up.
Oh my
And
days.
the movers were like, "We're not moving boxes, dude." And I'm like, "I'm paying you." They're like, So I spent the whole night busting up product boxes, and ever since then, aside from my VR ones, which are safe and sound, everything else dies the day I
I
open it.
don't like carrying boxes at all. I hate keeping
Yeah.
boxes or
That's what I'm saying.
no.
sure. We'll see. I don't want to actually use it because I know you need like an account, and I don't want to mess up
Yeah.
like his headset, and then he'll be my persona
Exactly.
anytime he's on a Zoom call, which would be hilarious. But I don't know. It's interesting to have it, but not. It's like right there. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh,
Like behind a thinly veiled cardboard prison. You know, you're just like scraping at the bars, just wishing for a conjugal visit with this thing. But yeah. No, that's pretty cool. Definitely happy sad. I wondered what you were going to bring up, but that's so you have to ferry it somewhere, or are you just shipping it? Like, how are you doing the handoff?
he's going to GDC in San Francisco, or both of us are. So I'm gonna hand it off to him in person there. That's why I was like, this is gonna be. I really hope I can just put it in the carrying case. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
a big box. I'm gonna 100% have to do checked luggage with this thing, and then like it's probably padded pretty well because it was shipped to my place. But still, like, it's a very expensive thing to have in checked luggage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you
Trying to
don't want
walk
that to
around
get
carry
lost.
on.
Like, you
Yeah.
because especially
uh,
like if you get like a delay or something, and they're like, your luggage arrives before you, and they're that thing is gonna be gone and picked up by someone else who really likes that luggage.
Yeah,
so
yeah. When you said checked, I was like, "There's no fucking way I would check that thing if it was me." But I guess the size of it is the problem, right? It's
Yeah.
just
I guess.
large.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the microphone there. If it's in the carrying case, I could probably carry it on. But just walking, like, there's no like
No.
backpack I could really put the whole box in. It would take up the
No.
whole backpack, and then I can't. It's not like I can squish it to make it fit better in places. I mean,
Yeah.
I could, but it may not arrive, in one piece.
You need to go to one of those what are they, like military surplus stores? Get one of those
Giant
massive.
bags.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking
Like
the
a
same
flight
thing.
case. Yeah.
Maybe I guess I could do like a check bag and have it up in the storage bin above versus under the seat, sort of a thing. So
I
I'll
would
figure it out.
strongly lean on the person who bought it to maybe do the unboxing piece. That's a good idea because that's a sizable box. At least it's not a
Yeah.
Vive. I remember the original Vive box landed, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's huge!"
Yeah.
It was
Figure
really
it out.
big. Good. So that's your highlight, and I know you're back from holiday, so welcome back, I suppose. I'm jealous. It's seems like a nice thing. Aside from the flight, what do you do? What do you do on the for in-flight entertainment? I'm curious for someone who goes to Hawaii on occasion.
I usually bring my Switch, and I used the Meta glasses a bit for that. So I'll go in, but usually I'll bring a Switch or a book. I don't really like watching movies much because I don't know. It's usually the ones that they include suck, and I always forget to pre-download stuff ahead of time. So I don't know. At least if I'm reading a book or playing a game, I feel like I'm more involved in something than just sitting and watching a movie and reminding
Yeah.
myself, like it just makes me think of the flight more. It's like, okay, this movie's 2 hours, this flight's 5 hours. Let me do the math, and by the time this movie's over, I'll still have this amount of time. But if I'm reading or playing a game, I don't think about it as much. It's just you keep going until you're there, hopefully.
It's rough if you do that math wrong or have to take a bathroom break or something, and then as you're landing, they cut off the last 15 minutes of the movie, and you're like, I mean, it's not often that I consider, taking a plane into a side of a building, but that's the moment, right? Like just when don't cut my movie off, man. I have to finish that. Anyway, all right. Who's next then? Next highlight.
I can take over. I can go next. I guess very busy. Since I've been here the last 3 weeks, I've been traveling a lot, putting in the good word of virtual reality in the business world. About 2 weeks ago, I went to something called the IT Expo in Fort Lauderdale here in Florida, and it is completely not VR related at all. It's an event that focuses on the enterprise IT world and all of the infrastructure that supports these businesses. So that's exactly what my company is kind of gearing towards, because we're seeing the momentum happening. And we went over there. We were very proud to be the only VR company talking about, the enterprise support world, or so we thought. And that's the reason I wanted to talk about it. There was a little tiny booth at this event, unadvertised. It looked like a CIA recruiting booth, but it was actually Apple. Apple was
Whoa.
there. First time they have actually been in a third-party event since I think Macworld, and that was like in 2007. So
Interesting.
Apple has not been in any MSP or IT events, let alone a one that's industry agnostic. And I had a really pleasant conversation with them, and it looks like Apple is moving into managed services for spatial computing and XR, right?
Wow.
So it was really cool to kind of getting the I was right all along kind of confirmation from a company like Apple, and had a good conversation about it, and being able to champion, and it's really cool how things have rapidly increased momentum, right? I really wanted to come here and talk a lot about that, because we tend to be in a bubble in the VR space, and nobody has really frequently outside of the bubble, and things are generally changing. We're getting, even in my company internally, at a very low level, we're getting reached out by nursing academies, schools of education, a PR speaking company reached out to us. A lab that does really heavy medical equipment that I can't really mention their name, but there's a lot of companies now that are looking at fleet ownership of headsets, not one or two, but they're thinking about giving a headset to all their employees. And
Wow.
it's feeling that momentum has been like what's been buzzing inside my brain all these weeks, because I'm like, if I'm feeling this at a very low level, think about the giant companies with crazy marketing plans and phone numbers that are well known. They must be going through a shift that everybody who's in the VR industry, I just build, because there is people keep saying, oh, it's 2014 all over again. No, it's not. This is way bigger than 2014, because for the first time we have multiple options, not just one company spending a lot of money on marketing. So it's been awesome. It's been
nice.
I remember a similar ripple, and it got me quite excited back with I think it was Walmart when they bought 10,000. I can't remember if it was Samsung Gear VRs or Oculus Go's or something, but it was basically for fleet training of their staff. And it was like, oh yeah, this is the kind of application that, whilst on the face of it, looks totally unappealing to a gamer audience. Like once the things like click, you realize this is the wind in the sail that's going to carry us forward. So it's great to hear a direct report from you, Jose, and it's something that you have a very unique perspective on, given your experience and obviously the direction your company's going as well. So love hearing it. Keep bringing that news to us, awesome. Because it's a song for the soul.
Seriously, it truly is. And for games, I've been super busy, so I'm not really playing a lot of games. But I've been really into, and this is something that I recently discovered about me, is I really love ultra hard challenging games when I'm very busy. I don't think I could ever sit down and play like a game like No Man's Sky, for example. I need something that's like very immediate feedback. And so Super Meat Boy, Celeste, in the span of the last 2 weeks, Ori the Blind Forest and Will of the Wisp, I literally like speed ran through those games for the first time. And it's lots of like
beautiful games,
impact games. Oh
Super
especially
Meat Boy.
Celeste.
My God. That game is
Have you guys
hard.
played Celeste?
Out the rage.
It's been on my to-do for so long.
I highly recommend it,
It
especially if it's one of those games that I didn't expect. It's a platform like everything else, but sometimes you hear about like content that comes to you at the right moments. I didn't know that Celeste had a very deepish story that connects the entire game. And me going through like a really difficult time, being very focused and looking for that immediate feedback. Celeste's story is all about dealing with a personal mountain. Thus, you're climbing the mountain, and really cool stuff there. So like being able to beat that game was just like food for the soul. So maybe that's why
Ori does that
so
well
ecstatic.
as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ori does that great as well.
Is Ori a platformer, or is that more adventure style?
It's platform, I would say. Yeah.
Metroidvania, or as they call them, right? Platform. We have to like gain an item in order to get. But yeah, so a lot of platformer games the last 3 weeks.
Good.
Nice.
Good.
Too much. Even Ori, even beautiful Ori, cute game. Like I wanted to murder that little animal a couple of times, because it's never the user's fault. It's always the little character on the screen. Why didn't you? I told you to jump. Why didn't you jump?
Dude, I never see like the little Ori doesn't. At least Ori's kind enough to show you that at the very end when you finish the game, it shows you how many times you died. But games like Celeste just shows you like how many times you die per stage, and I don't think all of them have been like 450 deaths per stage.
Oh my
or more.
days!
In terms of the death meter, the game that is the most brutal, in my opinion, was one of the early Doors games, Chronos, where you would age from being a young boy to being an old feckin' dude. Like you'd age 1 year every time you died. And so within, 20, 25 hours of gameplay and constant deaths, I got old so fast. And at a certain point, it caps out, right? But then you have to wear it, and everyone sees it, and it's like, oh, it's like shame. Definitely. Anyway, Rowdy, what about you? What's your highlight?
Yeah, I think my highlight is far less exciting. I don't even know if it's a really good highlight, since I started watching a new Netflix series, which was Avatar: The Last Airbender. I was a huge fan of the series when I was younger. I've only watched, I think, 2 episodes now. Yeah, I think I've watched 2. It's not the greatest, I would say, of course, but I often watch these kind of things pure out of nostalgia. I don't care if it's good or not. I enjoy it because it exists, and that is mainly the thing. It's mainly more like a bit like reminiscent about like the times when I used to watch it. I don't think it hits the same way as it did back then. But yeah, I think that's what I've been enjoying a little bit. Just like a little bit of nostalgia, thinking about the good old days when I didn't have to worry about anything else and just watching cartoons all day was my life. Yeah, that was the life.
Oh man. Yep. No, it sounds wonderful. And actually, I think my son just started getting into that. I've never seen any parts of Airbender. And did it start off as like a manga or something, or how was it just a cartoon at the beginning?
I think it started immediately as an anime. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually don't know if there's a manga.
I'm using the
as well.
words incorrect. I'm using the wrong term there. You're right, anime. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it whatever. I don't care. Like,
I don't think so. The internet will disagree.
Yeah, the internet, but I don't. Like, you can call it. It is cartoony as well. I don't even know if it qualifies as a real anime either, because there's certain criteria. But yeah, it's fun to watch, or it was fun to watch when I was younger.
Well,
yeah. It was very original, I thought.
It is certainly crazy to think about the animators, particularly Japanese animators, who created all of that. Cell by cell, pane by pane. I mean, Walt Disney and their stuff is like okay, but you look at the craftsmanship.
The opposite.
Insane. You think the opposite, Jose? Yeah.
Oh, complete opposite. I'm a big anime fan. Like I mean, One Piece is one of my favorite. But that's when that was beaten into me in art school, right? Because I did a temporary stint in art school, and American introduced a 60 frame animation panel where Asia, or what the anime style, is cut into 27 under 30 to make the magic of movement and fluidity. So they were much more technical, but Disney had the real fluid animation. That's the reason Disney doesn't do old school animations anymore.
I think what made Avatar actually so interesting back in the days, because it was that blend of like American and Asian, right? Because the story was conceived, I think it's Nickelodeon in California.
Really? Wow.
That came up with, but it was designed by, I think, a South Korean animation studio. Not entirely sure, so don't quote me on that. But I remember that there was that blend of like, an American company that kind of created a story set in an Asian-inspired universe, and then the design was done indeed more by. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know if you can qualify this really as an anime, because it's like that blend of styles, right? That you have, a story and concept design that kind of like was brought together. I thought that was, for me, what made it interesting back then. Yeah, the blend of styles.
And it came Nickelodeon when you think about it.
Sorry?
Too. Like, Nickelodeon wasn't doing those kind of animations back then. It was like SpongeBob, you know what I mean? And those kind of like burst cartoons, and then seeing like something completely drastic.
I mean,
like
I don't know
Avatar
if they created or produced, or like I just know they were involved. Like, because I know the big Nickelodeon sign that was there, but with the rest, I don't really know what their involvement was in terms of making this series happen. But I liked it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good.
Very good. Well, like a cantankerous old sea captain, I'm going to pull this ship about, and we're going to get back to some VR stuff in a moment.
Yeah.
But, chat, we've got you with us today after 2 pre-recorded podcasts and a short 84 years later. We are again live for your viewing pleasure. I hope you've all been behaving yourselves and you didn't, empty out the kids' college fund to buy an Apple Vision Pro. But, well, no judgment if you did. Hey Siri, who needs a college education anyway? Before we jump into the news, my own little personal highlight. This one's an odd one, but I got into playing a simple monkey game called Toss. It's really quite adorable. And floating above the clouds, I'll just give you the picture here. You're presented with like hairy ape hands. The peculiar of you may appreciate that. Cough, Adam. Cough. Anyway, you get to fling yourself across the level, and you have these yellow pipes. And so kind of like, I don't know, Super Mario style, but mixed with Tony Hawk. If you think about like the Skate collection where you pick all the letters, you have sliced bananas scattered about this level, and somewhat in a Windlands style, thinking of that parkour, you're leaping between pipes, bounce pads, moving monkey bars. Like it's actually quite a nice feeling VR challenge. A lot, I'd say, closest akin to me in the last game that I played was probably VR Skater, where you get to learn the mechanics, and then after a short time, like your human self starts to meld with the game. You start to feel like you know exactly how far to fling yourself and all this. Feels really great. Just fantastic little platformer. Very challenging quite quickly. Got myself and even my kids to go play that. So it was
Awesome.
loads of fun. Yeah. So
Awesome.
Cute.
if you're looking for a single player type game, one just you could just chew down on a weekend or something. Look out for Toss. It's not very new. I know it's launched on a couple of platforms. I was playing on PSVR too. Felt really great. One other special mention I'll say, because we glanced past it last podcast, is I finally got a chance to give some proper time to Underdogs, which is a badass mech brawler underground style
Heck
thing.
yeah.
And man, the FTL like roguelite style of the game, along with some pretty cool environments and just this like steeped in the dark underbelly, and of course the London kind of accent and stuff imbued in that. It's a badass game. Like if you had a badass seal of approval, man, that thing gets it in 5 minutes. I just haven't done it much on stream because I suppose that, blindly punching and uppercutting a 3-year-old might go viral on socials, and that's not something I particularly want to do. So I'm kind of waiting for mom to get home, so to
It's
do a bit
basically
more.
gorilla tag for adults if you think about it, because you're in a gorilla mech suit and you're moving around like you
Yep.
would in gorilla tag, except you're just beating the crap out of things, which
Yeah,
maybe a
it took
gorilla
me a
tag mod
little
out there.
while to kind of get comfortable with the movement mechanism, but once you have this kind of extensibility, it feels a little.
Nice. Nice.
With that, I suppose we'll it's time for me to role play April O'Neil for Channel 5 News. First up, quick shout out for everyone who's gotten into Apple Vision Pros and are busy trying to be productive while actually watching 3D cinema in their at-home IMAXs. I wanted to mention that there's a cool 3D printable stand that was showcased in the latest edition of the Waveform podcast. It's quite a famous podcast now. It's run by Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, and his team. And he flipped the cast around, something like what we've done a few times, right? But he flipped this cast around based on a bet. And so he had his kind of B team leading the podcast, and it made for a really fun episode, just calling that out. But they covered a number of different peripherals, and this one in particular, this gorgeous little 3D printable stand. If you've got a Vision Pro, Adam is just itching to take this one out of the box, 3D print something, and put it on the stand now.
I'll do it.
So if you want to look for links to that and just listen to that podcast, look for We Took Over the Podcast on YouTube. That's the Waveform podcast. Any of you guys listen to Marquez and team?
Yeah, I love.
Never.
Marcus
I've
Brownlee.
never done it. No.
I'd recommend. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. Secondly, there was a particularly solid review by David Heaney of Upload VR of Apple Vision Pro, which is a bloody long read. Probably the longest thing I've read on the internet in a long time. I think it was quoted at like 12,000 words article. And I'm like reading the review, scrolling down, and I'm like, Jesus, Lord Almighty, there's 3/4 of it left, just when you're starting to get that itch. But honestly, and I've been following Heaney for a long time. We used to clash swords a little bit on Reddit in the early days of VR. He's known as really an Oculus fan from kind of way back when. Obviously took up a job with Upload, has been doing news for them for some time now, more than a year, of course. But he's one of the originals, and he has some really great points of view on Apple Vision Pro. So I just encourage you to go over to Upload and check the article out. So nice one to David on that.
Ew, reading. Just kidding. That's why I copy paste into ChatGPT summarize this article for me.
I'm with you.
That's
I'm
cool.
with you.
That's cool. So you can does that work for modern text, or do you have to drop the block of text in there? How does that
No,
work?
I just copy paste. Even if there's ads in it, like just copy the whole thing and paste it. Like, summarize this for me. It's
Yeah.
too long to read.
Oh,
I,
sweet.
I personally, I love David, and I actually read the entire thing. But when I finished that review, I thought two things. One, phenomenal review, of course, very insightful, in depth. But two, why are we covering forward-facing technologies with old school way of coverage? You know what I mean? And maybe it made me think a lot about Apple Vision Pro, like not going the traditional route and introducing it to the world through Vanity Fair, unlike using Time Magazine or Wall Street Journal or something like that. It's very interesting how I think it's time to, people keep saying like, oh, covering VR is very difficult, but maybe it's because we're shoehorning, the different mediums to showcase it. It's a great review, but I don't know. A video would have been better. Spatial video. Give it to me in 3D, David.
Oh, that'd
That's
be
really an interesting kind of shower thought, right? But
I don't
in
really
terms
agree.
of accessibility.
Yeah, exactly. Because like a lot of people read stuff on the toilet, or like they wherever they
Are you
are,
saying
like.
There's no spatial video for toilet use.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not saying there's not. It's just like it's an extra barrier, I think, that you need to overcome. And a lot of people, like with a video, I think it's harder to scroll through. With text, you can scroll through, and then you spot something interesting, you read something, you scroll further, you spot something interesting. I don't think a lot of people read everything, but like that entire concept of like reading diagonally and like consuming a lot of content fast is easier with text than it is with video. You can increase the speed, but you can't like go through a video as fast, I think, as you can go through text.
Yeah,
That's true.
I think video is great for summarizing information, but if you want detail, I think text is probably the
like
right
I
format,
miss
so.
RSS feeds, right? Like where you could subscribe to X,
What do you mean
news
miss
outlet.
them? They're still there.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, like
Bunch of broken XML files now, and
it doesn't function as well as it did. I mean, like these days, I go to Reddit, I hit a couple of websites to check BBC in the morning. Like I get my morning news, but just exploring a little bit deeper into what Jose is saying there. I mean, I do think that it's time for a revolution in terms of how we get information, and I don't think the answer is shorts and TikToks, because that's just not. I'm just curious where we go next with it. And does the volumetric nature, does the interpersonal connection, is that worth the ticket price of an extra step to kind of get into something?
I want to add on something you just said, like, and I hate to give you pushback on that, but you said it might not be shorts or TikToks, but I actually think, there is a compromise between short burst videos and what Rowdy just said, and TikTok actually is introducing that to the world. When you actually go through TikTok and you find a relevant video, if you look at the upper top, it creates a search result based on the general gist of the video. So let's say you find a video and they're talking about dissecting a specific toad, right? And you look at the top, it says information about that toad. So when you click it, you end up it's using it as a search result, similar to how to bake a cake. And you get a bunch of burst videos showing you based on the label. There is a text to audio search algorithm that's being built on short burst videos. And that's the reason that TikTok it's actually being used as a search algorithm now. People are searching. Yeah.
Is that like a TikTok equivalent of the Wikipedia mine, where you go from one video, it takes you to a series of other related videos based on
their algorithm? But also, I wanted to add, like, a lot of Gen Z actually get their news through TikTok now, because they don't trust media outlets. They just want the basic information. They don't want all the fluff. So,
which I think is very dangerous, because I think it's I think it's all the fluff that makes it an interesting story or something that is, because like there's a lot of like we have the same with, like, for example, social media, text-based, like headlines. You read the headline, and a lot of people just read the headline, and that's where they base their entire opinion on. And then you go and read the article, and it's like last time I read something, I think it was about it was 2 people died because they received the vaccine, and that was the headline. And I was like, wow, that's pretty serious. And then you go and read the article, and in the article it stated those people, the risk, there is indeed a risk factor, this and that, but the likelihood of people dying because of not getting the vaccine was still like 15 times higher. And I'm like, well, that's an important piece of information because
Twitter's really bad about that. All the clickbaity stuff.
If you just base yourself on the title, then you go out of that conversation with a wrong interpretation.
But there is and again, I'll just sit in Jose's corner here for a second, because when you watch an older film, right, like a movie from, I don't know, the 60s, the 70s or something, and you're like, oh my God, get to the bloody start of the movie. Like, it takes them like 40 minutes just to introduce anything. Nothing's happening. And like, I get it. I just wonder what's going to be, and again, Jose set me off thinking about this, like what's going to be the answer to what is essentially reliable short form facts and how those can be brought to us, enriched with, like, I still wonder if there's something to be said for this, like, additional depth of spatial. I guess I don't know what word to use, but it's a taking away of power of platform networks. Think about how there was a mentality early on where people, that we call them cord cutters, because they didn't want to subscribe to all of the cable packages. They want to consume all of that information because they were only going for specific channels. So now we're entering a new era where there is network exhaustion, where people are looking at companies, news organizations, large coalitions, and they're like, wait a minute, why am I subscribing, for example, to Waveform when I only care about MKBHD's opinion? I don't care about the two other guys, right? Yeah. So you end up watching only MKBHD's videos. I think that's what's happening is that platforms like Twitter, TikTok, that individualize the platform, it gives a sense of network disconnect. So people would rather trust a person specifically rather than an organization. Where it gets dangerous is you might be trusting the wrong person. And what you mentioned about the headline summarizers, there's a giant news account on TikTok, which is, I don't know if you guys ever seen SpongeBob, but on SpongeBob, there's like a fish. It's called Bikini Bottom News that tells the news on SpongeBob. I've seen that. Somebody has created an AI system that reads through news headlines and regurgitates that information as the fish. But so that fish is giving the daily news, and most of the time it's incorrect.
But I think the issue is that we live in such a frustratingly fast-paced world where, and I understand, like, I mean, MKBHD does a great job, but I think, like, how long has he been around now? It's been like, what, 15 years or something like that? Like if he would start now, I don't think he would be as big as he would be. Like, he's had 15 years of experience building out, starting out on a platform that was still growing in itself. But if you start now, the only thing people care about is fast content, views. Like, get as much stuff out there and see what sticks. And the more dramatized, it doesn't even matter if it's true or not, like, it's just pushing out content, see what works. And if something works, you keep on doing that. And I feel that is a little bit, I mean, I don't want to go on a rant. Oh, I'm already on a rant about it. But anyway,
do it.
Like, I do feel like, just especially with AI being introduced, because it's becoming so much, I mean, we'll talk about it later a little bit. It's going to be so much easier to create content. And I sometimes feel there's just too much content out there. And the majority of it is not good. And that's what makes me frustrating. I would like less content, but more quality.
And the trouble with having the Sherpa of AI, like what ChatGPT is offering even now in early form, the shortcut to get to information may bypass other sources that could have that source, right?
Well,
and that's a problem.
I imagine you'll be able, because now we're already seeing like Twitter comments as obvious ChatGPT garbage, and even full websites that are articles that are just chat. So I think eventually, because there's going to be so much AI garbage out there, you may actually, it'll be refreshing when you find someone that's either really, really good at AI where you can't tell it is, or that's, they're creating it themselves. So
it's getting better.
Crap will separate out,
As somebody who runs a company and receives, high valuation quotes, mostly weekly, it's the sourcing and data verification process of each email, client, phone number. It's getting harder. Like, we have had emails that just they don't look like a phishing email that it may mention the domain name. The website looks very similar to where the ones that they're looking at. You can easily fall victim to this new age of phishing scams. It's social engineering, because when you talk about hacking back in the day, anybody in the space would say it's not really the hacking, it's the social engineering behind it. Social engineering has been automated, and that's what people aren't realizing. It's the missing component to make the perfect hacking system, or the perfect, bypassing system, is the social human engineering side of it all that's been figured out almost.
Now, as a slight segue here, would it be possible maybe to dive a little bit into Sora, since we're talking on this topic anyway now for the minute, Rowdy?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I mean,
So cool.
it's been a crazy week, I think. I don't think people assumed that it would be coming so fast. I think that's mainly the thing that caused it. But Sora is indeed, it's a diffusion model. It's a new model that has been published by OpenAI, which basically generates video based on text input. It could also be image input, even video input. It does quite a few different kinds of things, I think. But it's the quality that it delivers, I think, that has been truly exceptional. I know that we were laughing not that long ago about that Will Smith video where they were using, like he was eating spaghetti or something like that. Like, but like if you look, I have some videos as well of like, for example, like here is a video.
People seem to look a lot better. I don't know if anyone's done a people
Of
eating
course.
video. I think that would be the true test.
Yeah, of course, like
Spaghetti.
nobody has been able to. Yeah, I think Will Smith even remade the video of like eating spaghetti, and he said it was generated. Of course, it wasn't by OpenAI, because I don't think too many people have access to it. But for example, this is the prompt here is: the camera directly faces colorful buildings in Burano, Italy. An adorable Dalmatian looks through a window on a building on the ground floor. Many people are walking and cycling along the canal streets in front of the building. So it doesn't get everything right, I would say. There's still probably like, some context that is missing. But the quality of the video is just so high. I think like the dog looks perfect. It's even like, the physics are there. The lighting is truly exceptional. The reflections in the window. Like there's so much detail in a video there that it's almost scary how good it looks.
I have a question for you, Rowdy, regarding this, and this is something that when I saw these videos, I've been trying to like effectively ask this question, and I couldn't write it down, so it's asking it out loud, and something dumb is the best way to go about this. Do you think that there will be eventually a path where the result, for example, as you mentioned the video, the Dalmatian walking through the streets, do you think that there'll eventually be a way to say, wait, actually I want that same exact scene, but make it a German Shepherd instead? Do you think that there will be a way to, I guess, contextualize what's being seen and remake it without losing that original output?
Yeah.
Because I feel that if you end up saying make it a German Shepherd instead, one of the abilities might end up a different color, for example.
So I mean, I'll touch that a little bit later, I think, because they're already doing that. That's already being done right now. But yeah, like what Sora, I mean, maybe I'll talk a little bit about Sora itself and what it does. So I already mentioned, because they have a nice text about the research techniques, which gives a little bit more clarity on like what it runs under the scene. So it is a diffusion model, and it generates video by starting off with one that looks like static noise, and then gradually by doing computing step, it transforms it by removing the noise over X many steps. So Sora is capable of generating entire videos all at once, or extending generated videos to make them longer. So you can actually use videos and then insert scenes before that video and insert scenes after that video, having it generated by AI, which is insanely
that won't get used.
Which is insanely powerful.
Things.
By giving the model foresight of many frames at a time, we've solved the challenging problem of making sure a subject stays the same even when it goes out of view temporarily. Similar to GPT models, Sora uses transformer architecture, unlocking superior scaling performance. We represent videos and images as a collection of smaller units of data called patches, each of which is akin to a token in GPT. By unifying how we then represent the data, we can train diffusion transformers on a wider range of visual data than was ever possible before, spanning different durations, resolutions, and aspect ratios. So yeah, that's a little bit an overview of what Sora specifically is. Of course, they had to include a safety section because seeing the kind of stuff that they've been pushing out, I'll show a couple more videos here of like what it's like, or like how it actually looks like. So this for example is a prompt that says the camera follows behind a white vintage SUV with a black roof rack as it speeds up a steep dirt road surrounded by pine trees on a steep mountain slope. Dust kicks up from its tires. The sunlight shines on the SUV as it speeds along the dirt road, casting a warm glow over the scene. The dirt road covers gently into the distance with no other cars or vehicles in sight. The trees on either side of the road are redwoods with patches of greenery scattered throughout. The car is seen from the rear, following the curve with ease, making it seem as if it is on a rugged drive through the rugged terrain. The dirt road itself is surrounded by steep hills and mountains with a clear blue skies above with wispy clouds. So you can see when the prompts become more detailed and more expressive, that what is being generated by the model is very, very accurate. I do love that the car is called a Danover or something like that instead of like a Land Rover or a Danver or something like that. So like that is something that I thought was funny. But yeah, like I said, like some of the videos I think are truly amazing. Like this is a historical.
I want to play that.
Historical footage of California.
That reminds me of Procedural Rally League, which was basically an adaptation of Assetto Corsa that they made, where you could have an end-to-end rally completely procedurally generated. You ran it, you did your lap time or whatever. You compared against other people online, and then the guy spun off and he got lost in creating it. But that's what this looks like. It's like immediately my brain goes to the gaming application.
Yeah, of course. And
it's exciting.
Here again is like as a stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street filled with warm glowing neon and animated signs, city signage. So like it isn't perfect, especially like probably like text. Of course, this isn't Tokyo, so I don't understand anything that is being said there. But like you can see that there are parts that are probably not entirely correct, but it's just like in the span of like, less than a year, the amount of quality increase that we've seen, it's becoming crazy, I think. And that's also the reason why I said they had to include the safety section. So they mentioned specifically that they're taking several important safety steps ahead of making Sora available on OpenAI's products. They're working with red teamers, which are domain experts in areas like misinformation, hateful content, and bias, who will be adversely testing the model. So it's currently not available to the like common people.
Common
folk.
Yeah,
the common folk.
You mere peasants.
Yeah,
who will never touch the powers of AI.
And they're also building tools to help detect misleading content, such as detection classifier, that can tell whether a video or not was created by Sora. So they were planning on including metadata into videos itself, like, which is good. But if they can do it, it's only going to be, I think, a matter of time before like a company with a little bit like less credulous reputation, it's going to be.
I keep thinking about that word, and you mentioned it just again, reputation. I think how do you build reliable information or reliable data or reliable video or a reliable sharing of thought? That because if this is the worst it will ever get, and you mentioned the ability to extend the video, right? I'm thinking, what happens if you like put in it's morbid thought, but what if you put the video of like JFK assassination and say extend this for me, and then now you get this like.
Yeah, I mean, you won't be able to do this with Sora, because they will definitely flag up that content, and the model will not adhere. But it's only going to be a matter of time before someone else, builds something similar with not any of those restrictions.
Yeah, because I keep and it's just my brain is breaking right now when you're talking, because I saw another video of people were using AI generated video to also create motion capture data. So like the one that you showed of the woman walking down the streets of Japan, somebody put that on top of an overlay and it changed the woman in real time through AR. So going back to the JFK assassination video, what if somebody recreates that video imitating exactly what you see on the video, but it's not the original source video? Thus, how do you flag that?
We're really embarking on a very dangerous part of time where telling truth from not truth, it's going to be indistinguishable before long. I mean,
and that's
like
also my
looking at that-
frustration again back with that short form content, because there's going to be so much short form content that's going to be completely false but looks exactly real. It's already happening now where you see videos of a president saying specific things that he never said before.
It can also very readily flood, like you said, if it's really about testing what sticks. With AI, you can generate flood and just push an inordinate amount of data out there. And for anyone who's like a mom and pop shop equivalent of a creator or a journalist, like they just get overwhelmed by volume and they can't win in that battle. It's very similar to an artist, right? Who's facing a year ago the idea of I can make a painting in a week. This thing can make 2,000 paintings in 10 seconds. You know, like maybe not that quick, but you know we're nearly there. But like this stuff is great. Like in terms of where we're going next, and from a gamer's perspective, man, it's like holodeck is just around the corner. Holy shit! Look at the skin on that woman's face as she's walking. It's like it's got the imperfections you would expect.
But the real interesting stuff is actually when we get to their technical reports, where they show a little bit more about like how they do it, and like they start out with that noise, and then like over different computing steps, you could see this Will Smith looking dog in the beginning who's trying to eat spaghetti that is slowly turning into, you know, when the compute steps basically increase over iterations, you can see that this dog is turning into, or this video is turning into something that is really accurate.
What is that first image? It's like
it's beautiful.
It's like an Ewok getting eaten by a red scarf. I don't know what's happening there.
And here indeed, like you can see more so this is, for example, sampling flexibility, where they go from a 920 to 1080p video to a 1080p and 1920 video, where you can see that being, you know, how it's generating that kind of content. It's I think that would have been great when we were recording with the Oculus Go or like Oculus. You remember those all
the videos that were like
a
bit tall.
And even things like improving framing and composition. So you see here on the left, the input video, and on the right you can see the output video. It's kind of amazing. And here they go more over the prompting with images specifically. So on the left you can see the input video, the input image, and then they have a specific prompt that I don't know if it's the prompt that generated. I think it's the prompt that generated the image, but the same prompt is used for the video. Then I think that's how it works. It's not really clear how they say it. So they said Sora can also be prompted with other inputs such as pre-existing image or videos. So I don't know if they use only the image and then have it animated itself, or if they actually use the prompt again. And they have different examples like that. I think for animation, that's gonna be a great thing. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of mind blowing to see what they're all doing with this. And here's, for example, an example where they extending generated video. So this is what I meant, either forward or backward in time. They can do this. There are 4 videos that were extended backward in time from the segment of the start of the video. It's kind of crazy to see all this stuff happen. And this is, for example, here they used it to create a perfect infinite loop of this specific shot, which is kind of mind blowing. And I think this is more what you were referring to, Jose, a bit earlier, is the video to video editing, where, for example, the fusion models have been used here to change, in this case, the scenery. So here the prompt was change the setting to be in a lush jungle, where the output actually changes. Yeah, and then I think this is even more impressive. So this is the connecting of videos where they have an input video on the left and an input video on the right. And then in the middle is kind of like how those two images, these two videos blend together. So we start off with this video and you can see in the middle like how it starts to change slowly into the scene to the right.
God, that's so cool. So we got the Roman Colosseum converting into a coral landscape with a monarch butterfly flying.
You have a couple more examples that they have here. Which
is remarkable.
Which is absolutely crazy.
It's honestly, I really value the opportunity to get a digest of this chameleon peacock, jeez, or whatever that bird that is.
Yeah, exactly. And
cool
and the other
animal.
one is
my God,
is the I don't know if it's a liger. It looks like a liger actually, or like the blend between a tiger and a lion. But like I don't know exactly what it is. But this video starts out with a car, and then like all of a sudden it changes into like more of like it looks like the liger is chasing the car now.
Fooling dumb people is gonna get so fun and so sad so fast.
Yeah. And then on top of that, it can also generate images, of course, which are still frames. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is like, there's a lot more that they're showcasing here, like that is even simulating digital worlds, which is maybe more interesting for us. One example is video games. Sora can simultaneously control the player in Minecraft with a basic policy while also rendering the world, and it's so you could basically use it to start generating Minecraft content on YouTube. So this is zero shot. It is so that means the only prompt that they gave is generate Minecraft. So this is just creating Minecraft content. So if you're a Minecraft YouTuber, you're fucked. Yeah.
Wow. And so what the simulating digital worlds thing, what this makes me think is those fake advertisements that they show off the game and they make it seem way more cooler. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen those ad ones with the puzzles and you see the guy drowning, but it's just
the mobile ads.
Yes.
Wait. Is it like a CAPTCHA where you have to find all the cells where there's a drowning man?
No. There's an ad playing of a video of a game app, but they make the app of the game look way more like intuitive than it actually is. So, and so this, if we can actually just tell it, hey, make an action world where you have a sword and you're flying through the sky, and you can easily say buy now, like a mobile game, and trick people through a phishing scam attack. And that's what's scary, because I see this stuff, and maybe it's the techie in me, but all I want to do is break this, right? I want to find ways how to how to break this completely. And I'm thinking about, it's like, there's people actually doing that right now who are looking at this and thinking about how to misinform at a wild scale. I don't think we've ever had this before.
Yeah, the CIA are like, oh yeah, baby.
They're already probably using it, right? That's what I keep thinking. It's like, oh, maybe these are all the alien sightings. This is probably all the weird stuff that people are seeing online. The only way you can, and I remember, I forgot where it was, but I remember listening to some CIA interview, and the guy said the only way to win the disinformation race is to have a more interesting disinformation, right? So I think a lot about earlier on, 4 years ago, people were talking about like the QAnons and all that stuff. Those are the same people that are now following like the alien stuff and all that crazy hyper conspiracies. It's like a moth with a light. They give them a better conspiracy and they usher them in. And I feel like these are the tools now that are being accessible, because I mean, I hate getting a conspiracy theorist, but that's how kind of technology at a very deep level works, right? Like, all of these technologies have been at play at the military for years, right? AI wasn't discovered, it was just commercialized, just like GPS technology wasn't discovered, it was commercialized. Internet.
What were you saying, Adam?
Sorry.
As much shit as I talk about, like, Twitter and Facebook sometimes, I feel like all social medias are going to need to be able to grab that metadata that says this is AI generated or part of it was AI generated. Because, like, I mean, if you don't know, like, we can tell we can say now, like, oh yeah, I can see these little nuances where I can tell it's AI generated, but we're reading it from an AI site. But if it's just out in the wild on social media, it's going to be a lot harder to detect. And as
Yeah.
we get older and as the technology improves, I don't know. Like if I were to show this to my mom to be like, look, it's a liger chasing a vehicle, she'd be like, wow, where was this?
It's like those videos of like it's like those videos where people are showing their grandmother like GTA 5 and saying that like this was just on the news, like oh
live
no,
police chase.
My America. But
Guy.
that's exactly that. Adam, you said it best. And when I think about exactly what you're talking about, I think a lot about, I hate it, but Elon Musk and the Twitter purchase, and I go like, wow, $44 billion isn't that expensive if there's going to be a social media that's going to have infrastructure that is the opposite of what we got used to, which is the I am not a robot. It's going to be the opposite. It's human verification. And if you have a strong, I guess, and I hate saying it, but a social security or ID that's attached to your information, it doesn't matter if it's misinformation or information, it's coming from a human source.
Yeah,
And
and this is where, Jose, where all of this, there's a nexus behind all of this that just stands out to me, and it's in many sci-fi films. I can't think of a specific one right now, but at some point, that flag that Adam, you're speaking about, human, not human, whatever,
Community
that
notes
then
but
becomes
extended.
controllable. I can remember it even being in like Star Trek, right? Someone modified the database. That system out there in space doesn't exist anymore. It's not part of the database. It's the same kind of scary place we're headed, where who controls the flag? Who controls the truth? It's just
Metal Gear.
Hold on to your butts, people, because we are headed down this loose tube.
Have you played Metal Gear, Zim?
I have
Metal Gear
not.
franchise? I recommend you to play Metal Gear Solid 2 and 4. Because there's a reason why people call Hideo Kojima like an oracle of this stuff, because that's exactly what that game covers. You're in this crazy military sci-fi opera, and eventually you find out that you're chasing these like Illuminati guys called the Patriots. And it turns out the Patriots are actual AI systems all along. And this is a game that came out like in 2008, I think. And because that's yes, there will be control over that.
I'm already on one Jose homework, which is one of the things that I find really comfortable, which I know Jose appreciates and probably does way more than me, is sitting down with the VR headset playing a flat game. Like I love a giant screen, and I've been playing Sea of the Stars, using the Xbox Game Pass, and you just have a gamepad and your Quest 3, and it's like, holy shit, this is like amazing gaming. Like I'm a huge Chrono Trigger fan, so it is giving me such good vibes. But I'll put it down on my list as a Tool fan. 4 and 2 aren't difficult numbers for me to put to the side, so I'll do 4 and 2 and maybe even 6. We'll see.
There you go.
So that is a good segue to our next piece, which is how the furries gazumped Zim. So an announcement was dropped in the midst of. Sorry, before I do the segue, thank you, Rowdy. Amazing segment.
No
I
worries.
appreciate that a lot. For those watching the video, I had to step away to mind my kids. I will have to watch or listen back to the first half because those videos are just stunning. It just blows my brain that we're already there. But an announcement dropped in the middle of every so often I'll be watching something like a dialogue on X. What's it called when you have just like that live conversation going? You guys know?
Fireside chat or
no? Well, there's a name for it, I'm sure. I don't know what Twitter branded it initially, where they have a live stream with multiple.
Twitter Spaces?
X Spaces? Twitter Spaces. Yeah, so X Spaces. So I was watching one of those, and it had Nima and Amanda Watson and a bunch of others like having this like multi-layered conversation on X. Really insightful from industry vets, but they were all in their Vision Pros, in their personas, talking away about, pros and cons and how it's going to affect the future and all this. And it was really good. And then towards the end of the cast, they announced live this web domain, valveprism.com, which Rowdy will show in a minute. And clearly they were fooled. They're like, is this legit? They're like, yeah, it's legit. And they started getting excited. And as a recent owner of a Steam Deck OLED, of course, the Valve side of my brain was like, oh yeah, it's happening. It's happening now, because Valve love this kind of news splash. And so I didn't pay attention to the obviously bogus URL. And I started looking at the specs of this thing and the way it was done up. And my God, I mean, I was drooling and I was primed, ready to drop with my wallet for $1,300, a standalone headset from Valve. I loved the Index, but I hate the base stations, right? So like that stopped me from going for it. But the audio and the optics at the time, and to give that in a standalone package and marketing it like a Steam Deck, man, I was ready to jump. It was so bad.
Speaking of this, we
But
I didn't see Bradley in the video.
Yeah.
oh, that's funny.
That's
Was that-
hilarious.
Was that on the site?
Yeah,
think I
I'm
saw
on the
that.
side right there.
Oh my God! So they even faked a video with Bradley and stuff. Oh, that's hilarious! And
That's amazing.
they were showing a resolution that was beating the Apple Vision Pro, so that's obviously a one red flag. But then a 5,000 nit brightness. I mean, just for anyone who like me has winced at the brightness in the PSVR 2, PSVR 2 is about 265 nits. A Quest 3 and a Quest 2 is around 100 nits brightness. 5,000 is what you need if you have an outdoor panel
Sun.
that you need to show to an audience. 5,000 would burn your eyeballs out. So I'm sad it's a fake, but it was a fucking good fake and a mouth-watering glimpse at maybe what Valve is working on, what's been called Deckard in the past, but a standalone, version of the Index. It's about time, right? But
I mean,
maybe we'll
come
get
on,
there.
a fan made like normally a company might do a fake door landing page to see if people are interested, but a fan made this one. If this isn't a message that like yes, people want something, I don't know what is to Valve.
I come from a world where people were like doing picnics outside Valve headquarters, asking them for Half-Life 3, and they don't care. Like,
No.
I don't
Cool
see.
story, bro.
I see this, and I just feel
Yeah.
bad for the community. Like, I don't see. And people hate me for that, but I don't see Valve introducing another headset for
A while.
maybe another three years.
Yeah, and I'm with you there, Jose. I think it's not a 2024 thing, but I'm keen to see what Valve does now. I think they're really doing well on hardware lately. Initially it was obviously with the original Vive when they partnered with HTC. That was a really cool kickstart and fire that just lit up all kinds of fires. Particularly at the CV1 when they launched. I mean, Vive did so much better than them at the beginning out the gates. Couple of fumbles on Oculus's side at the beginning, and then, man, Carmack's Quest came about, and so through the Gear and the Go and then the Quest after it, mobile really has kind of stormed the castle and taken market share. And so it'd be really interesting to see that, even be challenged, just have another challenger in the ring.
Are you going to mention the Sony rumor?
Yeah, coming.
Okay, perfect. It's kind
so-
of related.
Yeah, and so we'll cover that in the main news in a little bit. But while we're on the topic of fake headsets, let's talk about a product that Six has announced. And again, I always look at these things with a pinch of salt, or take them with a pinch of salt, because it's not the first product that's been announced in the last year from Six. So it's a headset for fitness called the Vi headset, and the VI stands for virtual eye. It's under a company called Plexus, fusing a couple of creators together. I think there's a market for niche headsets, and I won't go into too much depth. You can read about this kind of separately. I'm not too convinced that this can survive. Like, I think there was a comment that, why didn't we launch this 5 years ago? I'm not sure that this won't be necessarily a good product 5 years from now. Box VR, for example, is one of the companies that did take, Vives and trackers and built a company around bringing people into a gym and then having, what's it called? Weight-based training and kind of a weird MOBA that you would play in this environment. It was pretty cool, to be honest. I went and tried it in San Francisco. But obviously lockdown and COVID and all that didn't help those types of businesses. And I think they're still quite fledgling out there. So do we need an exercise headset? Probably. Is 2024, 2025 the year for it? Arguable. But anyway, it's an interesting new product. What's all your take on this headset dedicated for basically fitness gaming?
Yeah, I feel like it's maybe a little too soon, and
Mm.
like I feel bad if Six is listening to this, but I don't. He's burned a lot
You
of
can take it.
bridges So I don't know how well he's gonna get. I don't know. I mean, it seems he's paired with this company, which is good, but I don't know. Like when it comes to influencers, who's gonna try them? He's kind of burned that bridge
Oof.
recently. Um, and
Yeah.
eh, like I think a fitness headset is a great idea. Is it a great idea now?
Really?
Maybe not. Like I don't know if
Yeah,
Yeah.
like why
I
would I
used to
get
think
one
so.
for
I used
fitness
to
when I could
think,
do the Quest and have more stuff on it, you know? I mean,
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
again, and that's where I think like a box VR, like almost a a gym that wants to go use new technology in the same way they did with smart treadmills and treadmills with TVs, and like it,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people out there trying to stay fit or get fit, sign up for gym memberships and all that, and all you really need gym to gym is one to kind of pick this up and take off like wildfire. I think it'll come. I
Yeah.
just don't know if we're there yet. Like playing spatial ops, for example, in a gym setting is very convincing to me. It's actually some of the best VR I've ever done. I just don't
And
know
I
if
think it's
I just don't know if
important
it's the
to
right
know,
time.
and
Yeah.
I wanna before I preface this, like I love Six. I know him on a personal level. I agree with Adam said. I think it's very important to play the industry well and respect the industry when you're servicing the industry. Going to war with content creators, really bad bet. All right, these are the people that that showcase the industry to the mainstream world. So bad bet there.
Can you
And
guys
he knows.
summarize what's happened? Because although I've
Yeah,
caught hints of it, I've been focused on kids, not Twitter. So
just
what is it?
expressing, and I could probably, because I'm not a meta ambassador, I could probably talk a little bit about that a little bit more unfiltered. But yeah, delegating details of those contracts, right? Stealing people's food from their mouths, right? Revealing the business side of their content creation purposes for Meta. Understandably so, right? He has a personal vendetta with the company itself, but he brought in, innocent bystanders into the fold, which was a really bad call.
Remind me again.
Yeah.
His personal vendetta, so to speak. I've definitely seen this. So kind of anti-meta. Wasn't it like a theft of an idea or something? Was it similar to kind of
Yes.
big
I think it was with
screens
your
problem?
wasn't it with your, I think,
Why
because
you
Yeah.
are. Yeah. Okay.
or
So the
your yeah.
fitness app that it started was kind of the de facto standard in the industry, but really just budding over that year. And then Meta swooped in and replaced it at an OS level, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But basically stole the idea and
Yeah,
just did their
and
own.
they did. And granted, the argument can be said. He has a personal gripes. People know them. But at the same time, when you also want to rely on that same exact industry that's benefiting from it, you're at a lost war. As somebody who's dealing with it myself, right? Meta Quest for Business has reshifted their business model twice in the last 6 months, and their new one is exactly my business model, which is the managed services approach. And you get two options on there. Either you end up being better fighting against the industry, knowing that there's so many colleagues in the space that are benefiting from that, or you put up and fight back, right? You actually compete, you bring in the business model, you do right by the influencers, you respect the people covering it, and they'll give you the same respect and love back. With that said, regarding the VI, it's a glove that they're promoting first. It's not a headset. The headset is a theoretical future possible option if the glove does well. They're selling an AI glove that's detecting the lifting, the weight, the reps. So it's a really good analytics tool for weight and fitness, which I genuinely believe that Six can deliver on that, right? Going from and his background focusing on a lot of fitness, the
Some of
guy
his
knows how
partners.
to track fitness data. Partnering him up with Marcus Kane, who's a talented, incredible designer, and then having senior builders from A16 who know the procurement, the actual procurement and off the shelf side of building a VR headset. They have all the metrics there to theoretically build a proof of concept, a working one. With that said, as you mentioned, building a product is incredibly hard. Requires way more funding than people believe. There's also, let's call them mafias, for lack of a better word, at the distribution chain level. No company, let's say, for example, Meta, who's working directly with Qualcomm, Meta isn't going to allow another company to come in and say, hey, we want to order a third of that stock of CPUs and lenses and head straps that are going to Meta. or another competitor, right? They're going to fight for that. They're going to outbid
I'm-
them every step of the way.
Sorry, Jose. I'm trying not to go too depth into
Yeah.
this right now, just because the level of details is there. Like, I
Yeah.
remember when we were 2 years before Big Screen, when we just got the idea that this was going to come out, and we had our suspicions about how it would go or wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Big Screen's really fulfilled on their promise. It's still difficult. It's still a very niche product, but they've had a good deal of success in there. And so what I wanted to do here was really just trumpet, hey, this thing's out there.
Yeah.
Can I
Use
ask
on,
one thing though?
Please.
When I hear fitness, is this aimed at like, gym bros that will skip like leg day, or like what? Like how does it track legs? What if I like
How does it track
running
legs? Yeah.
or sit-ups or
Sit on.
or
It's totally
training
Or
fine.
rowing. Yeah. Rowing
Yeah,
is-
like I mean, when I hear fitness, I'm thinking about the overarching thing, and of course, in the video he shows it's him lifting a weight, but that's just a very. I mean, I don't go to the gym that often. Well, I mean, I try to, but like lifting weights is just a very small section, right? Of unless you only care about chest and biceps, which is
That's a
maybe
good
the
point.
case. Like, should I be skipping leg day? Like, I'd love to skip leg day.
If it asks you right at the interface, are you skipping leg day? And if you hit yes, it'll let you in the app.
Well, when we were asking and trying to answer that question of like, is it the right time for a fitness-centered VR accessories? Trackers make a lot of sense because of the social implications, right? Bring them into this space. I can see how it could be evolved, for this type of application. What you were saying, Rowdy, it brings me back to a promise, or sorry, a wish that I had very early on, like DK2 days, where I was like, man, I used to love my Wii Fit, even though it would say nasty things to me and be like, you don't work out enough. And it would talk to my wife and be like, is Brad looking fat today? Like that cheeky little mongrel. Anyway, that aside, I wanted an app where you could like run in a headset, because I was like, if you had procedural generated terrain, you could run. Obviously, we've got games like Happy Run now that kind of show us a little bit about what that's like. Well, that's a little bit stalkerish, but the idea being, if you could run around an island, either social or just single player, like by yourself, maybe you'd be able to forget where you were and just put a little bit more effort in. And that's kind of what that MOBA with Box VR was trying to do years ago. And it worked really effectively. You were working like it was tracking you. It was telling how much harder you were pushing. It would dynamically ask you to do a little bit more than you did your last workout. So all of that stuff kind of is effective. The question really is though, even with a Wii equivalent array of accessories under an umbrella brand, can this company Plexus, take a stab and be successful right now? Is there enough meat on the bone for them to survive as a company?
I
is
think
my
so.
question.
I think so. I think that hyper productivity, a hyper precise product makes sense if you can actually deliver on the vision of that, right? Because when you look at the Quest 3, the 2, they're really good technical. People say they're really good for fitness, but when you think about this, because they have really good head strap options now available in the market. So I think that having a headset that organically is putting all of that without requiring a head strap, making them light, making them sweat proof, making them maybe, I think that there is a niche there. I don't know if that's V at all. I think V is going to probably, I think that we'll know if there is a use case for that, because if I'm like a Nike or one of these bigger sports companies, I will probably see what Six is working on and say, hey, make it a Nike.
I think it's far too early for
something.
that. I think it's far too early for those big brands. Like,
yeah, same.
But what I'm seeing right now is there's nothing there yet that I think is a product. I think once, I mean, the market will show itself, I guess. But I think the product itself, I don't know. I just don't see myself using a headset in a fitness environment unless it's like very, very small or very form factor.
You'd almost have to get form factor at the big screen. I actually thought that the big screen would work for something like this because it's similar to swim goggles and you can throw it on. But like someone said it in an AVP review, and I would agree with this. Like, say you're a high performer, beginning of your day, end of your day, whatever, you're going to go do your workout. and you just want to check email, catch up on the news or whatever while you're doing that thing, you're getting benefit from it because you're doing multiple things then at once, and maybe you're able to continue on with your work or disconnect from your work, whatever it is. I would love to see a product that does fill that gap, but right now it feels
too early. Well, I mean, it's good to push the boundary, right?
Sure.
It's just not something I would get.
I don't know much about the fitness stuff, but I would say this: when I think about like productivity, for example, I really want. I mean, the XR at least is probably the closest thing that I could make, and that was me modding the original one. So I keep thinking that there is a potential for hyper precise products to really go mainstream if they deliver on that goal. And that's the difficult part right now, is that big screen is a great example, right? Big screen, not to bring in their internal politics into it, but you can barely get over 50 of those units in the US per month. That's the reason why that they are unable to meet their demands. Other countries, they can get them very easily because the supply chain, the people behind it, the logistics companies, the people that allow you to get these headsets in, they're not allowing you to. So I think the market will show itself, but I think it's also important to know that the market, it's experiencing an incredible bottleneck right now by huge powers that be that are Qualcomm. When you look at Qualcomm on a very interesting level, I think that they want this. I think that they have the data. It's just nobody's trying to push those limits right now. I really I push a lot against the potentials of these headsets actually being able to exist today, because they can. It's just
well, I'll tell you what I want. I want Niantic to bring out their bloody AR headset. Give me the Pokemon on the go. That's what I want. Thank you very much. That's me done and sorted. That'll get Zim out walking on the streets and back into the public domain again. But before then, no. All right. I want to give you a quick report on, unless Adam, you had a few comments on that.
No, I was just going to say, maybe before having a whole new headset, I would prefer some kind of accessory that could track legs that maybe aren't as big and as uncomfortable as the trackers, like a better Connect or something. But then the problem with that would be then you would need games that support it, which even for trackers, not a lot of games support. Dance Dash maybe being an exception, but a very good one. Like, we need more legs in VR.
We need more legs in VR.
About Horizon.
Leg day. Stop skipping leg day.
You make me so sad at it because you remind me of the Deca move. Not the headset. I love the Deca move. I think Rowdy liked the idea as well, where it's tracking your orientation, where you can move your arms and your head facing completely differently. I used to use my horse, call it a Epona, whatever you want, and I'm soldiering down a hill and I'm firing bows off at a skeleton that's chasing me in Skyrim, and I was like, God, this feels so good. We should have it at platform level. But
has anyone done that yet with like a cell phone or an iPhone? Like
they had that. So Deca had the physical puck, which was lower latency than their app, but you could try their app. I would say the app was just not good enough, and the puck was just beyond good enough. So it was like something I wanted, but the software stack kind of sucked. And then inevitably it broke and it all fell apart, which is sad because that company went under. Megadodo, who was manufacturing Megadodo. I mean,
they went the way of the dodo.
They picked the wrong name for the company anyway.
Seriously.
But yeah, I do miss that, and I'm with you, Adam. I think the lower body. I should not. It's like they need to pay some attention.
They need to track the lower body more.
Yeah, you heard it here from Zim. Pay attention to the lower bodies, people.
For certain applications in virtual reality.
Apple Vision Pro's cameras aren't pointing out; they're pointing down, right? So Apple knows what's up. Speaking of that, I wanted to focus on the XR graveyard. We do talk about this on occasion. Just two real quick points. First off, Mozilla Hubs, which was a web-based XR application allowing people to join a kind of like we had with AltSpace, a collaborative space together from the web, from a mobile in a VR headset, customizable, could use it for work. Pretty cool. That's getting wound down, and they're going to leave the code and support up to the community. So if you were a user of Mozilla Hubs, say goodbye. The second thing is that I think I saw it on Nathy's feed, that Stormland, a really cool sci-fi space game where you take the body of a robot, not unlike not First Contact. What's that awesome game where you're Lone Echo. Very similar to Lone Echo in some respects, in terms of how you embody a robot in this kind of sci-fi future universe. It was co-op. However, the co-op, due to an acquisition, stunted the end game being fully fleshed out and developed. But a really cool ass game. Like we were talking about Underdogs earlier, getting the, badass stamp. Stormland was one of those games. If you missed it, kind of too bad. You can't buy it now on the Meta Store any longer.
Yeah.
If you still have it,
Great
apparently it's
reviews
still
as well.
available.
Right, like
Oh.
71% are 5 stars of the reviews out of almost 2,000 ratings. Not bad.
It was wonderful, and especially if you got near lava or and then the multi-level combat was there before. Like Pop 1 allowed you to like clamber up a building or something like that. So Stormland was really one of the first like games that had verticality in its combat.
Mhm.
Very exciting game.
Cool
So
story.
If you do have it, go reinstall it. Enjoy it for old time's sake. All right. Little touch on games ahead. This shouldn't be encroaching on Jose's territory for later. First up, it's Pacific Drive. So this game is one of several out there, along with maybe Helldivers 2, that's really been making waves out in the flat gaming community. But with UEVR, that's Prey Dog's mod, you can experience this, I'll call it semi-post-apocalyptic survival scroungers game, where it circles around a Mad Max-style station wagon, and you have to drive your way out. So as you're going along, as Rowdy's showing on video, you get to take your grinder out, harvest parts off of, other vehicles, and find your way to escape. It's got a playtime of about 30 hours. Seems like the ideal modder's choice if you want to warm up with Prey Dog and that UEVR support. And it's very similar to, it's like a vehicular version of a game mod that I used to play, which was called Escape from Chernobyl, where you started off in a prison. Your prison guard has a heart attack. You pick up his weapon, and then you have to escape off of this giant island. That was a DayZ mod that I used to play, or an Arma mod that I used to play with friends. So that's Pacific Drive. I can bet your bottom that people like PD have already done that one. But if you are in the UEVR modders camp, then go pick yourself up a copy of Pacific Drive.
I've not even heard about this game.
Me neither.
It's
awesome.
so badass looking. I just saw it and I was like, shit, I want to play this game. I haven't dabbled in UEVR myself yet. I intend to, but I wanted things to get easier first. So I just don't have buckets of time. Like I can't put 40 hours into making a 30-hour game work.
It's so sad how UEVR had to have a whole community effort to show the world the way of how AAA games can be made VR accessible without having to make a whole VR game studio and make all of these weird game decision. I can't wait for UEVR's like 2 years from now. I don't think people will call it that. They will just call it, VR. I don't even think it'll have a name. It'll just be part of the. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've honestly, for those of us who've been close to VR gaming for the last 5-10 years, like there's so many amazing games that could have been that halfway house. And I know there's a Rowdy on my shoulder screaming, saying, "No, don't do it." But I like those halfway house, the VR mode kind of games. I really do. They're very easy to get into and sync. Like if you want a full fat game, it doesn't cost you for the VR studio, as Jose is saying. Now with that, talking about Dream Space here, I ran across a game which I thought would be ideal for VR, and I just wanted to show it off. I hadn't heard of it before. I've been distracted with VR. It's a game called Viewfinder, and in this game, it's based around photography. So you take a photo, for example, of a staircase or a bridge, and that then becomes a volumetric solution to puzzles that are present in the game.
I want that game. It looks so cool. Yeah, I've heard of this.
So you hold up a picture of this bridge over a gap, and then all of a sudden it's there. But it's there in the style and presentation, coloring, all of that, as was present in the picture. And I look at this and I go, this is such an obvious candidate. If you can make it even function, because obviously it's dev magic to make it function, period. But if you can make it function in a flat game, surely you could bring this to us for VR. The VR support for this would be, I would buy that absolutely same day. No questions asked. It looks so cool.
That's very well done, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we've had a few like it. That one which Sir Patrick Stewart had voiced, which Mike beat and I never did, and I still owe him a burger for. Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, we've had a few in VR, but just not enough. So that's one. That's called Viewfinder. And then I'm going to give you a teaser about a game that's coming from the studio behind Wanderer. Surprise! They've got the kind of upgraded version of their game coming to PSVR 2 later this year in June. But they just teased a sequel to the game, which is super for people like me. Because I played the first game, probably won't end up playing the second through because it's kind of a long game. It's like 15, 20 hours long. But this is Wanderer 2, The Seas of Fortune. And my God, as someone who's been itching for anything on the high seas to be good in VR, because I know we got Battle Wake and we got a few small indie teams who've tried to take on the high seas. No one's really done it justice. Yeah. That said, this is a Wanderer game. In Wanderer, it's like Austin Powers. You're jumping from thing to thing, like you're scene switching all the time. In that case, you're jumping between time bands from the moon to, I'm not going to give spoilers. Don't expect it to all be about the high seas, but I do wish we had a high seas game. I really wish, because swashbuckling, hunting for treasure, all of that kind of stuff, whatever, exchanging insults, Monkey Island coming out of me there. Like, I'd love to have a proper sea-based VR game at some point. Yeah. So that is Wanderer 2, The Seas of Fortune. Nice big surprise for us. With that, now it's probably a good time to jump over to one of our two main titles for today, which is the Meta Ray-Bans. Adam's had her keen eyes filming across a variety of hot locations and is going to tell us a bit about the next phase for Meta's Ray-Bans, what they're like to use in the wild.
Yeah, I used my Ray-Bans more than my phone on this trip, mostly as an experiment, but also because I didn't want to live my vacation through my phone, which I had done in the past, because I love taking videos, I love taking pictures, but I feel like I'm always kind of bummed out with myself, where I'm like, yeah, it was great from, the square the square view that I saw of it. So I used it, I want to say 95% of the time on this trip. And starting off with even on the airplane, because this is kind of gross TMI, but I had impacted earwax going into the trip, which thank God I was able to clear it. I have a nice picture of the chunk if anyone wants to see it.
I'd love to see it.
But so I actually used the speakers on the Meta Ray-Bans instead of earbuds, because I figured, like, I don't want to put earbuds in, compact that crap further. And because it was on a plane and you've got the airplane noise, I used it with my Switch, and my husband sat next to me and he said he couldn't hear the volume.
Did that
anyway.
work? Wow.
It worked.
I'm surprised.
Just paired it with Bluetooth. I wasn't sure if it would work, but it did. It just paired instantly, and
it's just similar to like Oculus Go or any of these like sideband where it's just downward firing kind of into your earlobe. But like you said, it's quiet to someone sitting next to you. But if you're on a couch, like you can tell that they're listening to something, but it's like 10% of the volume that you then hear. I'm so surprised that you could hear it over the airplane noise.
Yeah, it worked pretty well. And and I'll say that battery life for just using it for as a listening device was about like 3 hours or so, maybe. But I did take like breaks in between to read or whatever. So for that function, it was perfect. Didn't have to worry about cramming more crap in my ear with earbuds. And so on my trip, like I said, I used it for photos and videos, of course. I did crazy stuff that I don't recommend. Like, these are kind of expensive glasses, so you probably shouldn't do some of the things that I did with it. Like, I went over water. Like, I took it kayaking. I took it like mountain. I don't know how to mountain inner tubing. I don't know how else to describe it. I got one of those nerdy sports bands that you can put in the back of your head, so in case it falls forward, it's not gonna dip in water. And luckily, I never came close to it feeling like it was gonna come across off my head. Took it zip lining, all kinds of probably no-nos.
So cool.
But it worked,
So cool.
and I didn't have to worry about fussing with my phone, especially, kayaking. I want to be hands-free, or not hands-free, but hands with the paddles. And it was super easy. I loved it. And because I have the transitions, they were just normal sunglasses, and Hawaii's hot and sunny. So even if I wasn't taking photos or videos, they just functioned as glasses. It was great.
Oh, that's so rad.
So I used them a lot. And when it comes to the AI, so I guess I'll step back a little bit. What the the AI on the glasses by default, you could basically there's a touchpad on the side. You can either say "Hey Meta" or "Okay Meta" to activate it, but I disabled that because I hate it so much. So I just
They're
have
not your
it where
best
you
friend? They're not your best friend? You
It's-
don't want to speak to them all the time?
let's just say that in public. That's disgusting. so, so anyway, I have it where you just hold the touchpad, and then after a
Right.
while, does the ding, and then you can ask it its thing. And I found it useful for things like finding out when stores, how long they're open for, or just random questions. Like, me and my husband are like, no, I think this came out this time, or no, I'm pretty sure this was this. So it's great for solving arguments like on the fly without having to take off your phone. I could walk and just get my answers. So yeah, that's the Meta AI so far. Is it's basically just a little assistant you can use it to ask questions with.
I love that.
But yeah, it was pretty useful. But they added well, it's in early access now. Unfortunately, only to random US people in the US, and I was able to get that while I was on my trip. It's a look and tell me what you see. So what it does, you could say something like,
Huh.
you tap it, you go look and tell me what you see. It takes a picture, and then the AI is like, oh, this is a beach with rocky trees, and it appears to be tropical and blah blah blah. Like on the baseline, just asking it that alone is kind of pointless because it's like, yeah, I can see that, thank you. But
Yeah, I was like, what's the point of that, right?
that was just the tester. But the cool things with this are you can maybe there's a tree or something that you don't know or you're curious to know about or something. You could be like, look and tell me what kind of tree it is. So I did that with like a banyan tree, and it was pretty good. It guessed either fig or banyan tree, and I'm like, okay, you had two options. One of them was right. I did the same thing for unfortunately, the only picture of a flower that I thought to take was just a weed. So I just was like, look and tell me what kind of flower this is. But it worked for that. And then the same thing for food as well. Like I had a shave ice at one point, and I was like, look and tell me what kind of food it is. And you don't that was just for fun to see if it could tell me, and it could. It figured out it appears to be shave ice. It tried to guess like maybe some kind of cotton candy, but then it went on about like how shave ice is made or what it consists of. So it seemed to lean more heavily on that, and I was impressed. I was like,
That's cool.
that's
And
pretty
the
dang
AI
neat.
is that llama? Or
I believe it's Meta, so I would be
Yeah.
It
surprised
has
if
to
it was
be.
something
It's
else.
Llama 2,
Yeah.
probably.
right, llama 2, yeah, okay.
The only thing though, because I was curious to see, okay, can it determine the amount? Can it maybe guess the amount of calories in a food? And no, not not very well. I took a picture of partially eaten meal. I guess it included myself and my husband. And for reference though, mine was just pork adobo, rice, and a beet salad. And my
Yeah.
husband, in the photo, it was only like some fries left. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, based on
I-
what I see,
I think-
like 10,000 calories.
I think that the model included your husband. Like you were gonna eat your husband as well.
2 plates of food and 1 husband. Yep, 10,000 calories sounds about right.
Yeah, so
That's
can't
so funny.
quite determine correctly the amount of calories, but who
Wow.
knows? Maybe once it gets trained more in the future. And actually, one other thing I would have liked, because I tested this out a couple times, was like look and tell me where I am. But it can't it can't do location based stuff yet, is what it told me. So, because that'd be cool. So it'd be useful for if you're in another country and you can't read the signs. Obviously, it can't tell you where you are, but maybe you can take a picture of a street sign or a store
Can
sign.
it do any translation at this moment? was
I
curious.
didn't test it because Hawaii, everything's. I guess I could have tested it with some Hawaiian street signs, but I imagine that it could, as long as it can see clearly. Because the problem
Yeah.
with the glasses are they're kind of wide angle, so you don't realize like things look close to you, but when you look at the photo, like I had one, I didn't send it to Rowdy, where there was some birds on a field, and to me they were pretty clear, but when I look back at the photo, I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty dang far. No wonder it couldn't see
Yeah.
what the birds were. But it guessed
Like-
shorebirds, which was close enough, I guess.
Your bloody zip line looks insane, Adam.
Yeah.
Holy
One of them was a pendulum. Like you actually went, you passed a little platform, and then you swing backwards to the platform. Like it was so
God.
fun.
How long does it take to get a response? Like when you ask it, like, hey, for any
5 to 10
questions?
seconds. But it
Okay,
also
that's-
depended on. It was usually It depended on if I had service in the area too, though. But for the most part, like the places where I needed to ask it questions, I wasn't out in the middle of nowhere. Though I did take it like hiking with me. I did like it got sweaty on the sides, which is also really gross, but it still seemed to function fine. Like I did some gross stuff with this thing that you probably shouldn't. Not in that sense. Hiking and water from landscape.
Right, I thought it was for your OnlyFans, but okay.
I'm sure it exists.
This is
the Ray-Ban
no,
experience.
honestly, yeah, I didn't even see a 10% of this stuff, and wow, this is like really phenomenal. I can see why you were sad coming back to Thursday now, because like it looks like you had a hell of a time.
Yeah,
It looks like a Meta Ray-Ban ad. They should buy it from you.
Super fun. And they on one of the updates they did improve the quality. I didn't use it at nighttime, but that was one of my big gripes was for low light settings while I'm walking, you could see the stabilizer sort of fighting it, and so it almost looked like a jitter in the videos.
Yep.
So unfortunately, because everything closes there at like 8, so I wasn't able to really test it with nightlife. But it actually, even with photos, because of the wide angle, that actually worked out really well for landscapes. And some of them, I was like, I took this with my glasses. Like, what is going on? Technology is so cool now.
I wanted to mention that. Like, you ever notice like when you take a video with like a different type of camera, it almost you have to like post edit to get it to like eye level. And every single video, you're just natively, it's just so pleasing to the eyes to see the whole video because it almost feels naturally eye level at all times. It's something I didn't expect that made me that eluded me to like these kind of like.
And that's one of the disadvantages of when you record with like the Apple Vision Pro. It doesn't come out well. Like the videos from that don't look good. But I would just say this, and I said this last year, which is a really weird thing to say because I'm a gamer, right? But Meta's strongest product, in my opinion, last year was not Quest 3. It was the Meta Ray-Bans. I think they are something that if you got them as a Christmas gift, you'd be like, what are these? And you try them out and you find the music is really great on the headset. That was my first thing. I was wearing them during work and I was like, this is just so handy. And the quality was decent. That's why I'm so glad that you can use them on an airplane. But then when I started to like film my puppy and run around the yard with the kids and generate moments, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to keep these at some point. I returned mine because I wanted to wait for the AI to come. This is the kind of tip of the iceberg, so to speak, in terms of early access for the AI coming. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Meta has to offer us this year. That's very exciting. And Adam, holy cow, congratulations on a crazy trek and also bringing all of us your videos back. It's very cool.
Yeah. When I vacation, like I'm either gonna die tomorrow or like the island's gonna completely disappear.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely lovely. Okay, so that's our Meta Ray-Bans bit. Let's get on to the PSVR 2 part. So thanks again to Adam for covering off the Meta part. I'm just curious, like when do I buy back in? Because I'm definitely going to. I just don't know when. And that charging case and the minimal packaging, like when you buy it, it's in the smallest little container. And this the cool thing about that is it glows green. That light green reminded me of like the Matrix or something.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's like something, when you're like a techie and there's something you love. There's things you hate, like a bright blue LED shining across your clock radio in your bedroom at night that you're like, I'm going to just take a screwdriver and carve this thing out. The Meta case was like the opposite of that. It was like a nice little piece of tranquility every time I went to charge the glasses. It sounds so dumb, but I miss them. I will get them again at some point. So you just tell me when to jump back in, Adam. All right. Tell me that moment. All right. So PSVR 2, we just got the first year has passed now for PSVR 2, which launched last February. So happy birthday, Sony. Man, you guys really believe in VR and bringing such a huge splash, in my opinion. Felt like such a godsend after lockdown and all of that. I had just moved from, to Canada, saved the money for a PS5, got the PSVR 2. And although I didn't get all my dreams answered for, looking at you, Firewall, everything from Tetris to Breachers, Resident Evil, we've got 2 titles now in a year. It's crazy. Gran Turismo 7 and No Man's Sky, like it's a smorgasbord of heavy-hitting games. There's no mobile games here, right? It's like proper IPs and titles. And I know there's people out there who were singing. They've got an appetite for so much more. I don't get you, animals, right? I don't get it because I think Sony's done such a great job of their launch. And now we've got even more, right? We've got even more. So I ran across PSVR Underground's tweet, and having been swindled by some furries, or nearly, I definitely didn't believe my eyes when I first read this. But he brought my attention to Sony's blog, and man, I got so excited. It's in the third paragraph of this blog. So, in short, Sony are coming with a potential solution to be able to play PC games on your PSVR 2 somehow. We'll have Rowdy read out the text here in a minute, but this is like major news for Sony to just even whisper this in our ears. My thought is this. I think Valve have talked to Sony and said, hey, we just developed Steam Link for Quest and we launched it on their store. It's your competitor, blah, blah, blah. You'll sell more headsets. And they're thinking to themselves, oh, we'll also get more revenue for Valve. It's a win-win. Just let us launch Steam Link on PS5. And then you'll have the ability to use that OLED panel and all that. Some integration would be needed, I'd imagine, in order to get the controllers to play nice with PC running content and vice versa. But that's my guess at what's coming. I think they're in QA for that. That would be my guess. But Rowdy, can you read the actual line?
Yeah,
here?
so they say, we are pleased to share that we are currently testing the ability for PSVR 2 players to access additional games on PC to offer even more game variety in addition to the PSVR 2 titles available through PS5. We hope to make the support available in 2024, so stay tuned for more updates.
Yeah.
How
Steam
much
Link.
did that guy that was working on something spend to get his solution trying to
Oh,
work?
no.
15K? Ivory?
God.
Yeah. I know. Well, his is more direct, right? He's basically trying to essentially plug in a PSVR 2 headset, get it running natively, and then somehow work out the controller side, which sounds like it might be tougher. But it's all, again, he's apparently succeeded with like 3 gadgets or whatever. But that's Ivory's kind of solution. This doesn't read to me like it's going to be a plug into your PC, play with your PSVR 2 headset. It sounds like it's going to be some form of streaming or handoff.
Like a Steam Link or something.
It's
Yeah.
Steam Link.
That's why I think it's Steam Link.
Yeah, it just makes sense. I think I even mentioned
You've
this
said
on
it
the
several times,
podcast.
Jose.
It is the pathway for what Valve has always been boasting about. They always, when you look at the index, and that's why I wanted to mention earlier, Valve, when we were talking about the PRISM, Valve has said that their introduction of the Valve Index was to show the broad world about the potentials of virtual reality. And they still sell the index to this day because the whole world now knows. So now we have Apple Vision Pro, which has Steam Link support, and people are already pairing it up with base stations and controllers. So that became a Deckard. Now the PlayStation is another one. The Quest 2 and 3, every single headset that's going to hit the market, Valve is just going to Steam Link, and they're all sharing the same user interface.
It's great for Valve, and I suppose the question would then be posed: why the heck would Sony sign up to this? They're a walled garden essentially for their exclusives, for their content. Why would they open the door? And some people have said, I know we talked about Heaney a bit earlier, but he's basically said, well, because Sony at the moment have taken a bit of a loss on this headset and bringing it out. Like if they weren't in a bit of a failure step, then this never would have happened. And I wonder, do you guys think this is a moment of weakness for Sony, and this is the only reason this has transpired?
That's like saying that the reason that Netflix exists on the PlayStation Store is because people aren't buying their movies on their platform. This has always, it's very important to know that Steam Link does not allow you to access the store at all. When you're remoted in. So on the PlayStation app, you won't be able to go through new games and purchase games. You will only be able to access your already available downloaded library of games and content. It has nothing to do with sales figures at all.
So what you're saying, Jose, is there isn't a kind of a fishhook in PSVR 2 owners to directly hop to a Steam store and make a transaction.
No, they'll have to use the mobile app for, to buy their games. They already have to be on the computer to purchase their games. You won't be able to do that process. Even on the Apple Store Steam link, on the one available to Quest 3, you can't do that at all. This is just straight.
Is this then an answer to, I'll say, droves of PSVR 2 owners saying, give us Half-Life, give us Half-Life, give us Half-Life. And they're saying, guess what? We just partnered. Valve's dropping their app. You can now play Half-Life and a bunch of other stuff, and be happy. Be happy you bought into our ecosystem.
OLED PCVR.
I want it so badly. You have no idea, because
it's the way to go.
Oh.
Does it kind of like defeat the purpose though of, like, say there's console camp versus PC camp? Like, the reason you probably got a PSVR 2 is because maybe you don't have a beefy computer.
But they've already in the past year been coming closer and closer together. Like, you can now see so much more crossplay happening. Like, the consoles are now much closer in performance to PCs as well.
It's expensive.
So
it's expensive. A lot of companies are now repositioning. Like, I hate to talk about the business side of it all, but even Microsoft said that their Game Pass business model, if they're not on the PlayStation ecosystem and the Nintendo Switch ecosystem, it will be a colossal financial failure for them, to the point that Microsoft is actually now reconsidering their hardware strategies for the future. They might just position themselves as a software catalog. Also think about that for Valve ecosystem, where there's platforms like Shadow PC, where eventually a partnership with Valve might say, hey, you don't even need a beefy computer anymore. It's just a cloud app with all of these resources available. This is just laying down the groundwork for all of that.
Well, one of the things that's really neat is, if you have a gaming computer, but you don't have the space in your gaming environment for a headset, like buying a Quest, but down in your lounge, your living room, or wherever you have your gaming console, you do have that space. Now, it's going to end up with maybe a few more broken TVs, but I certainly welcome the idea that
worth it.
You can bring PCVR to your gaming area.
And not just VR, right? I think that VR is only, it's a very small part of it all, because now think about the games that are available at the PC ecosystem that are PlayStation Studios. God of War is a really good example. The Uncharted collection, you'll be able to play God of War maxed out settings, something that the PS5 can't really do, at high resolution textures, high quality.
Dude, and sitting in cinema mode and looking at it on a massive screen from your couch. Dude,
Horizon
amazing.
Great. Forbidden West is coming to PC, and that's going to, they already, I heard an interview that were saying that you can't do this on the PS5, even if you wanted to. They'll be able to do that in VR and, bigger scale screen than the TV you have in your living room. So this is, and also access to your desktop, right? So now you're going to see a whole different pivot of, think about the gaming station. Now you're just going to have a keyboard, mouse, and a PS5 and a TV, and your gaming computer can be somewhere else.
It's very exciting. I mean, as a birthday present after the first year of what I feel was quite a successful launch. I know it wasn't for everybody, and it was, the headset's pricier than the console, which feels weird from an accessory purchase perspective. But what you're getting is, you're getting the controllers, the tracking mechanism, the headset. You got facial rumble, OLED display, very comfortable to wear headset for most people. Some people I know, Marmite heads, don't like it. And, it is not, it's still Fresnel lenses, right? Yeah. So there are some aging points that will age even more as we go into 25 and beyond. But if they can bring that in 2024, oh man, dream come true. Yeah.
Bradley on his Twitter said a very funny post that I think went over people's head, where he's like, oh, so this is how they get Half-Life running on the PS5. And I also was told something similar by a Sony rep, and I wonder if he was told the same thing I was told. I haven't asked him. But when I read that, and it was like, oh, he knows what I may know. And what I could say is, think about APIs, right? Forget about the PlayStation VR 2 coming to PC. Think about what Valve will be able to say, because they did it with the Steam Link on the Quest ecosystem. They brought in support for their eye tracking, their mouth tracking, and their body tracking to PC VR.
Foveated dynamic.
So now foveated dynamic rendering. Also think about facial feedbacks, because that PlayStation 5 offers that. These are APIs that are now being built into Valve's ecosystem. There's a reason why I say Valve isn't going to make a headset for a really long time. It's because they're letting everybody build the APIs that work. They're getting all of that data, and they're like, oh, facial feedback, eye tracking, mouth tracking. They're gonna.
This is way too exciting, baby. Jose. I'm gonna have to clean myself off after this podcast. This is. It's just you've opened a few concepts that I hadn't even come close to considering. That are value propositions that are substantial, and they make this kind of like 10 wins in one. You know. Dude,
that's the future of operating systems. It's a lot of people are fighting over hardware right now. Everybody's building their walled gardens, but what happens when a company acts like a virus and takes over every single walled garden, and you have the same exact Steam interface in every single one?
Just take that prompt and put that into Sora. Let's see what comes out. It'll be a fun scene for them to build.
It'll be Gabe Newell looking like Thanos holding the Earth.
Yeah. So what about Adam? What about you for your PSVR 2? Does this hold any merit for you, or would something like this just be, not replacing what you currently use?
I would still if I'm gonna use something in another room, I think I would still rather be wireless, like with the Quest 3. I think it's really cool. I think I don't mean to sound complainy, because I think this is a great win, of course, but if the strategy, which it doesn't sound like it is, might be to bring new people in, I'm just not convinced that a big audience has a gaming PC and a PC VR. So I think this is strictly just to shut people up that have been maybe wanting this. But I don't know. So it's cool, but I probably won't be using it. I'd rather.
It also doesn't read like a big promise. It's kind of like like you said, it's kind of like a placating the audience of, you've asked for this for so long, we're gonna try to bring it to you, but like no promises. We're crossing our toes right now. So like,
yeah.
I hope we get it. But because they've said it, I think they're serious about it.
Yeah, I only have one comment on this. I do think it's a little bit of a jab at Oculus or at Meta, like just because there's probably like now if you own a PSVR 2 and you want to play on PC, the only way is for you to get a new headset. But this might now deter people from purchasing a new headset. Even though, it would be wireless, like the experience might be better, but like, how much are you willing to spend on that, right? That's a little bit the question. If you have a gaming, like most people have a gaming PC and a PS, well, not most people, but real gamers, they probably do. Yeah, decent people have that. So if they have both, then they might now not look at the Meta Quest 3, and they might instead go just for because maybe they like playing in their couch, or maybe they like like
a lot of people do. I think people don't understand this. Like we lost the room scale battle. We really did. Like room scale doesn't exist really much anymore, unfortunately.
I'm so happy about that.
And couches won. They really did. I know there's standing room scale and couches, right? Like, but those are the two main gaming modes at the moment for VR people.
And it's also important to know, one last point to what Rowdy said, is Sony does not count the PSVR 2 as an entire unit. They see it as an add-on. They see it as a monitor peripheral. Sony has always released, weirdly enough, a monitor for their consoles for a very long time, and the PSVR 2 is listed as such. They don't see it as a competitor. I think, if anything, as what you mentioned, Rowdy, I think it's Sony acknowledging Meta as a gaming company. If anything, I think that's really what should be signaled here, is that Sony is fully aware now that Meta is a gaming company. And if they continue that trajectory, Sony better be careful, because now there's next year, or the next console generation, it might no longer be Microsoft versus Sony. It might be Sony versus Oculus or the Quest.
Yeah. Exciting times ahead. Rough seas, maybe. I'm looking forward to it. So finally, before we exit this topic, before I let you all go, waving a flag to my fellow No Man's Sky fans, Omega just launched the latest patch. And for those who've been following the whole No Man's Sky thing, they bring out these monumental patches which bring large improvements to the game in one shape or variety. The latest one has brought expeditions where you can bring your primary save game for the first time, and you can bring your ship and your multi-tool which are kind of really important utilities in the game, into an expedition, which is like a series of missions. You have to explore the universe, do certain quests, and just adds a lot of value to the game. So even if you haven't finished the main game like me, you can actually sidestep and play this other offshoot, which is a short time. It might be 6 weeks or 12 weeks, right? That this is on offer. And as far as you get, then you get rewards back for that. So it kind of gives you a reason to go have a very interesting side quest. So that's really neat. And one kicker that's particularly beautiful is if you go into the accessibility settings, you can now finally, and thanks to chat for pointing this out to me, you can turn off proximity highlights. So when you walk up to an animal or an object, you no longer have a glowing thing around them. Before, every single thing you walked up to, boxes, animals, another player, they'd glow. And it was annoying. And it took you out of the moment. And now it's like they're just there. They're present in front of you.
Cool.
And finally, you've got that like immersive kick. It's a great little booster. So that's hidden away in the accessibility menu in No Man's Sky. That's my immersion tip of the week. And with that, I think it's time for some releases. Jose, over to you, my man.
All right, let's go. All right, so I got 3 games. I usually go for the under the radar games because mostly everybody finds out all the bigger ones. So the first one I have, and to be 100% transparent, the reason I selected this one was 100 because of the comments. And somebody said, "Oh, great, Yu-Gi-Oh meets Demio," but it's called Rocks and Roots. It's an action RPG, fantasy adventure. It's like a first-person Demio, but you also have the ability to change the flow of the battle based on the cards that you have at deck. So you can summon attacks that add into the strategy. So you can conjure spells. And yeah, that's the best way to describe it is Yu-Gi-Oh meets Demio. And I found that comment quite funny. But that releases on February 28th, so in a few days. MetaQuest 2 and 3 and PCVR, $14.99 US. That's about £12. And yeah, that's Rocks and Roots.
I recognize the name of the studio, Exocus, or I don't know how to pronounce that.
No,
it's like Focus with an X. But any idea what they made before? Maybe someone else in chat can say. It looks good for that price.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's pretty decent.
The only thing I would say is like the trailer, it doesn't seem to fit the description. Like it seems more like a
cards.
Yeah, where's the
game?
Where's the game?
and it's really weird. Near the end, they actually do they do like a little, oh, but here you are, and then like the action kind of starts in. I don't know if they just really wanted to focus and show how expansive the world is and in each mission.
Right. Okay. So there we have it now. Yeah. Okay. That like because from the beginning of the trailer, it looked more like like an adventure game or like an RPG,
like a Dungeons of Eternity or something.
Yeah.
Looks cool. No, that's a neat one, Jose. Nice find.
Yeah, and there's like a scene, and actually it's playing now where you can actually oversee from human perspective the flow of battle, and you're just standing like on the second floor, and that's actually a pretty cool camera perspective for these kinds of games and MOBAs that you never tend to see. You always end up being either really, really high up or you're in first person. You're never like a human perspective, just looking down, seeing the battle unfold like a general. So I was like,
the only problem is the name. Because Rock and Roots, my brain immediately writes it over and goes, Rock and Stone. And like, I can't say anything else.
I was thinking it was like a rhythm game of like rock music where you're playing with sticks or something, but
like unrelated, the graphic style makes me want an Orcs Must Die, but in VR. Like, I would really love that.
Oh, I love
so many dreams. Don't worry, AI is going to solve this problem for us near future. Near future, Adam. It's all coming.
But yeah, that's Rocks and Roots.
Exocus made Zed Race. That was the previous title. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Thanks. That was fun.
But yeah, that's Rock and Roots. February 28th, MetaQuest 2 and 3 and PCVR, $14.99 US, £12. And the next one is a beloved sequel to a game that's pretty well known, Swarm 2. It's a well-known roguelike shooter. It looks like it picks up immediately after where Swarm 1 actually ends. You play as Marv, the last surviving grapple commando. So it's a brand new roguelike progression game. It lets you to I call them Metrovania, right? Where you collect weapons that allow you to do better in your next run. Very really well known. People compare it to like Spider-Man with guns. I've seen people call it that quite a bit for the original Swarm. So they're finally releasing a sequel March 7th. MetaQuest 2 and Pico. No date yet for Pico, but it's going to be $24.99 US, $21.99 at the moment if you pre-order. That's £20 or £17.50 if you pre-order for MetaQuest 2 at the moment.
Yeah. As Ani was saying in chat, I agree. I was surprised with Pico in the advert. But one thing about Swarm, the first one, when I played that, like immediately it hits you. Like this is for people who want to test their VR legs. And I know some say VR legs don't exist, but man, the speed of that game and how you take on swarms of enemies is really compelling. So this game looks like it's taking on less of an arena-based system and more of a level you're progressing through while still keeping the crazy swings, which
correct.
As an original swinger myself, I do enjoy it. I'm talking Woodlands here.
And the one thing that they boasted about is the no motion sickness, because I love that you said that, but they're actually putting that as part of their trailer. They're like, motion sickness
Still
here.
no motion sickness. Okay.
Still no motion sickness.
Yeah.
No fat butter. I believe all of it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, seriously. I would love to see somebody put that to the test.
But Lone, maybe they have a system like Lone Echo, where there's a a mild dot grid in space and allows your system to be tricked enough to feel comfortable in that space. Perhaps. I don't know.
Yep.
I look forward to playing it.
But yeah, and that's March 7th, as I mentioned, $24.99, $21.99 for pre-order, and that's £20, $17.50 for pre-order. And last one I have here, a lot of people are going to roll their eyes, but I think it has potential. Beat the Beats. Yeah. It's a rhythm game, boxing game, very, very close to games like Beat Saber, a much cleaner user interface and hardware agnostic from the get-go. I believe that's coming February 27th for PSVR 2 and for Quest and PCVR sometime later this year. No price yet available. That's Beat the Beats. I don't think that we'll see very much different from games like Beat Saber, other than it will be hardware agnostic. I know Beat Games have been trying to make their hardware or their games available in other platforms, but it's heavily crippled and there's no user parity for multiplayer, things like that. So having a game kind of revisit that architecture from the ground up makes a lot of sense now.
The only thing from that game that stood out to me more than anything else is the colorful fuzzy pillow ghillie suit, which if that's not in the game, then feck those damn. That's I want that. I want that. I want to see my. I've had the ape hands. I'm done with the ape hands. I want the colored ghillie suit. That looks amazing. So, but it does. It looks like a decent game. My only question is, it kind of has that Half-Life Source veneer, where it's like almost like holodeck style. Yeah, like a test chamber, like Portal or something vibe to it.
Yeah,
I've never found that to be relaxing or something that I necessarily want to go back to. How do you guys feel about that? I find those claustrophobic.
I love that aesthetic. I love walled pseudo fake prison, I guess, because it's true. It is technically claustrophobic because I don't know. I love it. I love that.
You got some weird kinks, man.
Yes. Like what's the exercise game that you play a lot, Adam, with the baseball bat? Supernatural, yeah, because that's cool because they give you like real environments and you're out in the open and all that, and it's not like you're.
Or is it just wants to be in prison? Put him in prison.
I want to feel like I'm a test subject. That like it's for the world's protection. I'm in this white lab. You know what I mean?
I guess if you have a good imagination or you really like role playing, then this is the game. But I mean, like it's
just working out. I am the machine. I am the beast being contained.
Unless it's part of the story, like it almost looks unfinished
Yeah.
with that
Yeah.
style, But
Yeah.
I could see how
Right.
other people might appreciate it or be nostalgic, but it's more of like it reminds them of something else versus it's good for the game, maybe? I don't know.
It reminds me of like Bone Lab. Bone Lab had that feeling of like with the Monogon system where it like felt like it was like behind the scenes as
But
opposed
that feels
to
intentional, yeah.
yeah.
I love Josh Johnston's comment. He said Jose wants the SCP fitness experience, and that's exactly that will motivate me to work out. I want like there's nothing terrifying than the paranormal evils, just like challenging
Running
me
around
to
in the
lose
back
weight.
rooms.
Yeah, let's do it.
Wow. Well, we've showed our real colors this release cycle, haven't we, Jose? All right, give us a recap. What were those 3 titles then?
Yeah, so first one was Rocks and Roots, releasing February 28th for MetaQuest 2 and PCVR. Next one was Swarm 2, releasing March 7th for MetaQuest and Pico. No date on Pico yet. And last one was Beat the Beats, releasing February 27th. PSVR 2, Quest, and PCVR confirmed sometime later this year.
Very, very good. Those all look tasty to me. And Mind Jive in chat was suggesting that Heartshot is one to watch on Steam out on Feb 29th. So just a couple of days for that one too. That's our releases section. And chat, that means it's time for me to tell the newbies the marching orders here at FReality. Well, this is a fortnightly podcast. We broadcast every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. That's to give us a little bit of home time so we can do stuff like zip lining or getting squashed by
Heading ATVs.
bunch of kids. Riding ATVs, man. I'd ride an ATV over my kids any day. Anyway, we start at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in the UK. So you might want to make a reminder or subscribe to be alerted ahead of the next episode. For those on the go, we have an audio podcast that launches over on Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes a few days after this live broadcast. So that's the deal. We're here to bring you the latest cheese board of VR, AR, and AI tech news. And I think that's us for today. Just a little bit over the 2-hour mark. Very good. So that's us done. Thanks for hanging, and we'll see you all on the next FReality.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.